Welcome to our moon week. In light of the lunar eclipse that just passed, we will be decoding all 6 episodes of Moon Knight. So stay tuned. This episode begins with Marc looking like he got his ass beat. This scene is loopy because the psychologist is constantly telling Marc that Marc is violent and hallucinating, but we see statues of Ahmed everywhere. This really has Marc questioning what's real. We then see the goddess Taweret, where we later learn that Marc and Steven is in another realm, more like the Duat, which is the Egyptian underworld. They are considered travelers because it is said that the Duat is a dangerous place. One must travel through the Duat to meet the final true judgment, which lies with the god Osiris before they can officially enter the afterlife. I do love that Taweret mentioned the different realms in this episode, including the ancestral plane. Marc is skeptical at first, but he soon realized that they are truly in the afterlife. Their hearts must be measured and balanced on the scale of Mayat. They must be as light as a feather in order to get to paradise or the field of reeds. If not, they may wander for eternity. We soon learn that their hearts are not balancing.
So watching Marc through these episodes, we find him to be very guarded of his past, even withholding his mental illness from even his wife. So this episode, we begin to get down to the bottom of this. We witness young Marc leading his little brother Randall down into a cave, even though his mom warned him not to play when it's raining. And the unthinkable happens. His brother gets trapped and drowns in the cave. Wendy, the mother, never forgives Marc for this and begins to cope with the loss by drinking and hurling upsets at Marc, letting Marc know that she blames Marc for the tragedy and escalating this by beginning to physically abuse Marc. The amount of verbal abuse Marc was subjected to is reminiscent of the way Kanju addresses Steven. This also explains why Marc is so protective of the people around him. He feels it's his obligation to be the one who protects the ones he cares about, and vows that something like this will never happen again.
In one of the memories, we see how Marc found Kansu. He was shot and betrayed by the same person that killed Layla's dad. He was dying and he drug himself into the tomb who belonged to none other than the god Kansu. Marc was actually about to commit suicide to end his suffering. Then he heard the voice of Kansu. Kansu told him that if he swore his allegiance to him, he would give him the chance to live again, but only as his Moon Knight. Something weird is going on in this realm of the Duat that Marc and Steven are in. We learn that the souls are being sent there at a rapid pace and prematurely. This could mean none other than Ahmed must have been awakened. Time is of the essence, and Marc and Steven will have to weigh out their differences quickly to balance their hearts. The key turning point of this episode is Marc finally being open to Steven. With all these secrets revealed and them being accepting of each other, I was starting to think that maybe they're one now. We see a fight on the boat with Steven helping Marc, but unfortunately, Steven falling to his demise. Once this happened, the scales finally balanced. I took from this episode that only one of them can stay. The scales are meant to balance out a heart at once, and in their cases, there were 2 hearts on the scale. Marc can finally let go of this personality of Steven. I do have to say that this episode hurt, as I did really like the Steven and Marc dynamic. In the ending of this episode, we see Marc finally making it. to what should be considered paradise.
Stephen is hell-bent on going back and exploring a memory Marc wouldn't let him see. It looks like it takes place in Marc's childhood bedroom. It's not worth it, Marc says, but Stephen wants to go. Suddenly, we're in little Marc's room as a kid. His mom is banging on the door. "It's not my mom," little kid Marc says. As they watch, Marc gives himself over to Stephen and starts speaking in a British accent. We are witnessing the birth of Stephen. Adult Stephen is stunned and looks on the wall and sees the Time Buster poster of Stephen Grant. It all makes sense now. His mom suddenly gets in the room and starts beating him. Stephen is so upset. He says that Marc created him to deal with the pain of his mother. This is key. Dissociative disorders usually develop as a means of coping with trauma, often formed in children who have been exposed to long-term physical, sexual, and mental abuse. The traumatic loss of Marc's brother and the physical and emotional abuse he suffers at the hands of his mother undoubtedly were the main factors of the creation of the character Stephen Grant. It was ultimately his coping mechanism. Hope you enjoyed. Comment below on your thoughts of this edition of Decoded. Let us know what we missed. What did you get from it? Did y'all do some decoding? As always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when we upload. Follow us in the community too, because we will be offering updates, more exclusive interactions, polls, things of that nature. Stay tuned for the next episode and come back so we can vibe on it.